Y'all doing? How y'all doing? It's your boy here, Willing and Able here, back with another one. And today, we're gonna talk about trauma. And I have a very, very special guest, Miss Mandii Brown. Y'all give her a hand clap. Give her a hand clap. Mandy, thank you for being on the show. Could you please tell us about what you do and a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so my name is Mandii Brown. I'm also known as the Relatable Counselor. I am a mental health counselor for the state of Tennessee. I'm also a behavioral health counselor for the men's and women's maximum security prison down here. Um, on the free world, I am the director for the HBCU initiatives here for Black Mental Health Village. I'm on the board for several nonprofits, and I'm also a mom. So I have my hands in everything.
Wow, wow. You're a busy woman, it seems like.
Yeah.
So, what do you what does trauma look like to you?
It doesn't have a look, quite honestly. Me, a person who has trauma, I'm able to mask it up so well you don't even know that anything's even wrong with me. So it really doesn't have a look.
Yeah, and I was saying that earlier when we was off camera and I was
Mhm.
praying. I was like, a lot of people go through trauma and many people don't know about it because they are afraid to speak up or they're afraid to be seemed weak. So I definitely agree with that. It does not have a look. But I feel like a lot of people don't know how to identify their traumas either. That's why I feel like a
Mhm.
lot of people can't go to people because they don't even know they have traumas in general. So, how would you identify a problem? Not a problem, but a trauma.
It depends on the trauma. And again, people of color, we can mask it so well, and we have self-soothing or coping mechanisms to where you don't even know. So for me to identify someone has trauma, I kind of base it off their childhood and go from there. I go from ages like 0 to 6, then 7 to 12, then 13 to 19, and on up into adulthood. So I kind of like break it down into each age bracket first. And then I go also based off of like social climate or experience. So how your parents has raised you, or how they were raised, and how they used to treat you and talk to you, and then how you were in a school environment or with friends. It honestly just depends. The biggest factor is like the area you grew up in. I realize people who grew up in urban areas or the hood have a little bit more, a lot more trauma than others naturally. And it's not just like environmental trauma, it can be financial trauma and, of course, mental and verbal trauma as well. So it just depends.
Yeah, that's definitely true. You're speaking on people that grow up in urban areas. I myself, I grew up in a country town, but it basically the hood. So I did not know that certain things I was dealing with until I left and went to college. Because when I went to college, I went to Jacksonville. It was a whole culture shock because I'm from the country,
Yeah.
and I didn't know I was poor and put it like that until I left, and I was like,
Yeah. You never know
"Whoa,
until you leave your environment and hearing
yeah."
other people was like, ooh.
I was like, I'm really poor. I was like, wow, that's crazy. So it kind of like put a trauma on me about financial wise because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I have to get everything these people got because they're living life, they're doing this and they're doing that. But I also had to realize now I'm like, I don't really have to get connected with the Joneses. I just have to better myself financially to the point where I'm moving out of the tax bracket that I was born in. It's not about all the cars and all of that. Cause that can cause trauma too because you comparing yourself to people a lot. And I used to do that as well. And another thing about being from a small town, I didn't know I could become what I am now. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes even me doing this podcast with you now, I'm kind of in a culture shock because I'm like, I really am connecting with people outside of my area. I never knew that you can do that being from a small town. So that definitely play a large part into traumas that we deal with. So how has trauma impacted your relationship with God?
All right. Um, so I do have church trauma, and not
Mm,
only just based off being in the church, but also my biological mother. She used to sing in the church, be saved, yada yada yada. So And it's a trauma that we joke about it on TikTok, but it is very traumatic how our parents or our elders will be loving and kind and praise the Lord in front of other people. Yes. Or you talk crazy to me. Or I can't have the same snacks with one person. Go ahead, baby, eat all you can, and blah, blah, blah. That took a toll on me to where I felt like everybody in the church is very hypocritical. And then when I got older, um, and went to like one of the biggest mega churches in the Bible Belt. I went to school with those church kids, the pastor's son, and the youth leaders, and how we are literally having our hands in the air, praising the Lord, everything, speaking in tongues. Go to school the next day, they are the biggest bullies. They are
Mm.
extremely stuck up. They're not talking to the people they actually go to church with. And then, it was just completely different. So my walk with God was rough growing up because I'm like, if God is approving this and blessing them and acting this way, I don't want to be a part of that. Like, no, there's no way that you are nice in a building around people and then evil everywhere else. That's not that can't be God right there. That can't be Christian like. So honestly, it pushed me away until I got older and decided to have my own spiritual walk in my own way where I was comfortable to start growing. And now I'm better. So I do church in church, I do church at home. Like I base off my comfortability. Um I don't go by any other person's blueprint. So
Mm.
I'm better now, but younger, I mean, you couldn't even toss the scripture at me. I will probably push it away.
Oh man, but that's I actually hear that a lot coming from the younger generation.
Mhm.
Like they was with God and then like the church people pushed them away. And that's just sad. Thankfully I never went through that, but I tell people this, the devil will try to push you away from God by any means necessary. So he try to get you young, and if he can get you young, he can take you out easily. So a lot of time it looked like God is blessing them people, but I'm gonna tell you, like I heard off a YouTube channel, the devil can bless you too.
Facts.
So a lot of people thinking, oh, how can God bless these people? It's not him. it's the enemy blessing
Talking
them
about
because
gotcha.
he's doing what you're doing what he wants you to do. So of course he's
Hmm.
gonna bless these kids. And in the Bible, it's a scripture that says that if the devil blesses kids, don't you think God gonna bless you? So like I'm glad that you actually came back to God and learned your own way. And I really hope that a lot of more young people like us find that where, okay, that's not really God. It's the enemy, or it's just those people in their flesh. And God truly loves us. So we just have to find our own way to God. Because me personally, growing up, I didn't really go to church. I got saved when I was in high school, but I didn't really know what that meant. I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, I was a Christian all my life. I didn't know nothing about that. It didn't really happen until I got saved in college.
Mm.
And I started realizing I had traumas that whoo, God had to break, because like I literally suffered from depression and did not know I was depressed. And I think I talked about this in one of my podcasts, but I was so depressed that God had to break me down to literally ground zero and build me back up, because um I was in a relationship with a person and they like destroyed me confidently, because that was the first person I ever talked to. And I was
Mm.
like, oh dang, so if this is love and I don't want this. So I was just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Been
And I
there.
was just, yeah, I was just like depressed. And I didn't know I was depressed until I told you until I became a Christian. I was like,
Yeah.
that is not God like to be toxic like this. And
No.
yeah, and God had to like change me, change my ways. And he's still dealing with me on some stuff.
Mhm.
So like trauma and God can definitely go hand in hand. So if you're
Yeah.
suffering from trauma out there, go to the big man. Go to God, ask him to deliver you from whatever you're going through. Now, it might take a little minute. It might not be when you want it to. And you're going to find out some stuff about yourself that's going to scare you. You're going to be like, dang, I was like that. So definitely, definitely go to the big man. So my next question for you is, how do you know when you're ready to heal from the trauma?
when you are fed when you are fed up with yourself, when you are fed up with yourself, you know you don't want to go through this no more. You ever made one of them real heartful crying, Lord, I don't want to do this no more, don't want to go through this no more. That's when you know that I need to heal from this. Until you
Mm,
sick of it, you find people can tell you all day, you need to get yourself together and blah, blah, blah. Until you're fed up, that's when you know something needs to change, for sure. Or if you keep
yeah,
hitting the same speed bump over and over again and thinking that a new door or a new path is going to get you to that end point and you're being real sneaky about it, no. When you're fed up, you know.
that that's the perfect example. I can't say nothing else, man.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is from one of my subscribers. Shout out, you know who you are. What are some ways that you can cope from trauma, and can you ever heal from trauma?
Yes, you can heal from trauma. Now, keep in mind, healing is not linear. It's not like step by step that you do this. You'll be fine. You'll be done. Blah 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 blah. It's not set up in that manner at all. What you need to keep in mind though, when you heal from one trauma, you are going to trigger another. So be prepared for a rabbit hole of of fun, so to speak, of fun. Like, say that you want to heal your inner child from the relationship we had with your parents. And then you touch
Mhm.
one thing and you realize this also happened. I need to heal from this as well. This is why I had poor relationships with women or men. Now I got to heal from this as well. Oh, my parents did this to me, or they allowed a family member to do this, and it's going to affect my parenting. Now I got to heal from that as well. It's a cycle, but it is definitely worth it because it not only brings more awareness, but it also again helps like your people skills and who you connect with. And also remember, healing is not always meant to be done alone. Some of it is needed to be done in isolation, yes, but some of it needs to be done with another person. So have a trustworthy person as well. Um, and then ideally, again, with whatever trauma that you feel like you need to heal from, I always say this, of course, have the Lord, but also have a professional with you to help you handle this stuff. So, say you want to heal from domestic violence or child abuse, get somebody that is well versed in that field. Because if you're just getting somebody or talking to somebody and venting and stuff, yeah, that gets off your chest, but you're pouring out, but nothing healthy is pouring back into you to help give you those skills and those tools you need to heal. So, also keep in mind, whatever you think you need to heal from, get somebody that's an expert on that, for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely facts. And you have to go get help too. I feel like that is very imperative that people, especially of our color, know. You
Yes.
have to go get the help. You can't just sit there and say, "Oh, I'm struggling with this," and the person who's sent for you to get the help, you just
You pushing
ignore
them
them and
away.
walk away.
Yeah.
Like you have to go to the person that God sent to you to get the help, and then they can help you. Cause I know with me, and especially men, we deal with this where we have a pride thing, but we don't like to tell. I'm I'm
Mm-hmm.
dealing with hey, not too much on this,
So
but
not too much. Hmm.
we don't like to tell people what's going on, and we have to get out of that, man. Because I just seen like men are offering themselves more than any other gender, so
Yeah.
you literally have to like get the help. You have to go. It's not weak. It's not being feminine. Is you getting help? If you break your leg, you are going to the doctor. So why you can't do the same thing for your brain? That is
Are
literally the doctor's
you?
brain.
Are you? Because as black people, we have this thing that I ain't going to the doctor. It's a lump in my chest, but I don't want to go. It'll be healed. It'll be fixed. I got some old concoction that can handle this. So
Oh
are we
man,
going to the doctor? Like really? But
look
keep
if
in
you
mind also, men, you guys are each other's biggest critics, and you guys make up this blueprint of what a man should be and what they should go through and what they look like when they go through stuff. So quite honestly, you guys are the bullies.
yeah, we go through it, and then it's just like I was telling my friend the other day. I was like, bro, we go through so much stuff, but we don't open up to it. And I'm glad that God put somebody in my life, my brother in Christ. Shout out to Ben, you know who you are. But like I can legit go to him and be like, hey bro, I'm dealing with this. And he won't judge me, he won't do nothing. He be like, all right, bro, this what you do, X, Y, and Z. I don't know about that, but we can pray about it. So you have to find a good person of the same gender or different gender who can really tell you some things about yourself and be real with you, and you can go and tell them things and vice versa. So that's it. That's another good thing that you have to do. You got to have a good
Yeah,
community to express your
there you
drama
go.
to. Yes, you can't just sit there. And the last question that I have for you is, how did you get into your career?
Ooh. Ooh, the rabbit hole. So I really started off wanting to be a teacher. I wanted to be the teacher that I never had, or the teacher I had later on in life, but I wanted to get kids, at an early age. And I was that teacher. I was a teacher and an academic advisor for about 3 years, and I loved it. But the more I taught, when I was living back home in Chicago, the more I realized like there's a bigger gap outside of education. And at first I thought maybe it's communication because parents and students aren't clicking, parents and teachers aren't clicking, teachers and students aren't clicking. There's a gap. And I was the only teacher to actually have a healthy relationship with all my students and their parents. No fighting, no beefing, no nothing. And so my vice principal was like, "You should be the school counselor." And I'm like, I can do that, but that means everyone's problems are my problems now. So I don't know. But I shadowed the guidance counselor at that time in between my teaching, and I loved it. So I went back to school for clinical mental health counseling in Alabama. And simultaneously, I began working for the state. I stopped teaching. I got to stop teaching. I became a social worker. I was like, that's another level between parents, students, and education. So as I'm in school for counseling and a social worker for the state, it opened up a whole new can of worms. So I'm like, okay, now I have these three rabbit holes, and they're all still connected to mental health. And I was burnt out, honestly, just within the courses because they make sure you have a counselor yourself while you're acknowledging your trauma stuff before you get to handle people. So a lot of stuff was coming up for me, and I'm like, maybe this isn't for me. But the more I dived into it, the more I started acknowledging stuff in my life, I grew better. The more I started acknowledging stuff that my family had did to me and my siblings, it got better. Um, and my last partner I was with, I saw how much of a lack of acknowledgement mental health was. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm for sure staying in this field now because when I started bringing things to the forefront and having that credential behind me and the textbook and everything, it made it clear for him and his family to see like what they were doing and what's going on when we were together. So now that we're apart, everything made much more sense. So honestly, I believe our relationship was the cherry on top for me to stay in this field. And ever since then, I'm like, I really just want to be the counselor that we as Black people never had. Like someone to give it to you raw and straight, definitely stick to the code of ethics, different type of theories, DSM-5, all that stuff, but also coming from the same background as people who need these resources. And so someone's like, oh, I want someone that's experienced with trauma. And I always say this, I do not believe in just taking courses is going to make me competent to handle certain stuff unless I've experienced it myself. Now, I'm not telling everybody to do something crazy to experience some trauma or to get an adrenaline rush. But for me, I can't tell somebody that yes, I'm well versed in childhood trauma unless I had some myself, that I'm well versed in domestic violence unless I dealt with it myself, that I'm well versed in racial identity and social justice issues unless I'm well versed in it myself. And the clients I do have now, you guys know who you are, and I cherish you dearly. They know and they always feel safe with me because we've come from the same background and I've shown like you can overcome it with this, by acknowledging this and getting the correct tools to be a better person, to have a better life.
Oh man, but I'm glad you're in this field. We definitely need more people like you who really in it for the love of it and who are
Yeah.
willing to help other people. But that's the show for you guys today. I hope y'all really enjoyed the show. Thank you again to Miss Mandii Brown for coming on to the Willing and Able show. Definitely follow both of us on social media. I'll put it somewhere up here. But y'all already know what time it is. Y'all have a blessed, positive, productive day, and go watch this episode and share it to somebody who needs it. Peace.